If you added up every asset and every debt on Earth, you wouldn't see wealth. You'd see risk. Because every dollar someone owns is a dollar someone else owes. Every safe investment is someone else's obligation. And every promise in the system only works if the next promise holds. That's fine when confidence is high. It's dangerous when it isn't. And right now, the entire global economy is balanced on that difference.
The world economy doesn't look fragile. It looks busy, loud, confident. Markets open, trades clear, money moves, screens glow green and red. Everything appears functional. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The global economy isn't a collection of independent countries and markets. It's one balance sheet. And the numbers only work as long as nobody panics. Pause on that for a second. Because balance sheets don't care about optimism. They care about assets and liabilities and whether the promises on one side can still be honored by the other. And right now, the world is running on promises. This matters now because we're living through a strange moment in history. Debt levels are at records, interest rates are no longer near zero, governments, households, and corporations are all refinancing at the same time, and the system we built during the easy money era is being stress-tested by math. Not ideology, not politics, just arithmetic. For decades, we were told the global economy is diversified, resilient, too complex to fail all at once. That's comforting, and mostly wrong. At its core, the global economy works like this. Every financial asset is someone else's liability. Your government bond is a government's debt. Your bank deposit is a bank's promise. Your pension fund's safe investment is a borrower on the other side hoping nothing goes wrong. There is no pile of money sitting somewhere backing the system. There's only interconnected IOUs. Zoom out far enough and the entire world looks like one giant spreadsheet. Assets on the left, debts on the right. Countries, banks, corporations, and households all linked together. When one balance sheet expands, another one absorbs the risk. When one country borrows, another country's investors lend. When one bank grows, another institution is now exposed to its survival. This worked beautifully when interest rates were near zero. Borrowing was cheap, rolling over debt was easy, mistakes were forgiven by time and inflation. But balance sheets behave very differently when rates rise. Let's say a government borrowed heavily when rates were close to zero. No problem. Debt servicing costs were manageable. Now, fast forward. That same debt needs refinancing at higher rates. Interest payments jump, budgets tighten. Suddenly, manageable becomes delicate. Multiply this across dozens of major economies at once. Now add corporations that relied on cheap credit, households with variable rate loans, banks holding long-term bonds bought when yields were low. Individually, none of this looks catastrophic. Collectively, it's a system leaning on perfect timing. Here's the uncomfortable math. For the global balance sheet to stay stable, three things must happen at the same time. Growth must continue, inflation must fall but not too fast, and interest rates must stay high enough to control prices but not high enough to break borrowers. That's not a plan, that's a balancing act. And balancing acts fail quietly at first. The cracks don't show up as explosions, they show up as unexpected bank stress, temporary liquidity facilities, one-off government interventions. Each one framed as contained, each one absorbed by the system, until they're not. Here's where the irony comes in. The more globally connected the economy becomes, the more fragile it gets. Not because connections are bad, but because shocks travel faster than understanding. A bond sell-off in one country tightens financial conditions elsewhere. A banking issue in one region forces policy changes globally overnight. A currency move reshuffles balance sheets across continents overnight. No villain, no conspiracy, just math doing what math does.
public narratives rarely acknowledge this. We hear about strong labor markets, resilient consumers, soft landings. Those things can all be true, temporarily. What rarely gets discussed is the cumulative pressure building underneath, the refinancing wall, the maturity mismatch, the assumption that tomorrow's growth will pay for yesterday's debt. That assumption is doing a lot of work. Zoom out again, and the risk isn't collapse, it's constraint. A world where governments can't spend freely, where central banks hesitate longer, where financial stability quietly outranks growth. Not because policymakers want it that way, but because the balance sheet leaves no room. And that brings us to the uncomfortable ending. If the global economy really is one balance sheet, then stability depends less on innovation or productivity and more on confidence that everyone else can still pay. Confidence is powerful, but it's also fragile. So the real question isn't whether the system will fail tomorrow, it's whether a world built on rolling promises can adapt when the math stops being forgiving. And if it can't, who do you think ends up holding the liability?